Welcome back to The Explainer. Let's just dive right in. Meet our animated stick figure friend. I'm betting you're going to relate to this little guy quite a bit today. Just like, well, so many of us, he's lugging around this incredibly heavy burden of guilt. He's constantly putting things off, watching the clock just tick down, and honestly feeling terrible about the whole shebang. Now, most people think this struggle is just a straightforward time management problem. They figure, hey, if I just made better schedules, bought a fancier planner, or wrote out these super detailed to-do lists, I'd finally get my act together. But as you're going to see, psychology and neuroscience tell us a completely different story.
So let me ask you, why do we actually procrastinate? When you look at your own habits, do you secretly think it means you're just lazy? Do you assume you're simply weak-willed or maybe uniquely terrible at making and sticking to a schedule? See, we're taught to look at our incomplete tasks and view them as personal character flaws. We think, man, if I just wanted this badly enough, I'd just start. That's the narrative we've been fed our whole lives. But the science, it shows that procrastination isn't about laziness. It is absolutely not about poor discipline, and it is certainly not because you don't care. Actually, scratch that, it's usually the exact opposite.
Here is the exact mechanism at play, and it's something most people completely miss. Procrastination is an emotional regulation problem. Period. You are not avoiding the task itself. Let me repeat that because it is absolutely crucial to internalize. You are not avoiding the task. You are avoiding the negative feeling that comes with the task. That feeling is the actual barrier. By the end of this explainer, you're going to know exactly why your brain keeps tricking you into avoiding things. And we're going to give you the one science-backed shift that actually stops this whole vicious cycle dead in its tracks. To get us there, we'll walk through a really simple, helpful three-part lesson. First up, escaping discomfort. Then, the motivation trap. Third, an emotion problem. And finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with the ultimate solution, the 60-second rule. All right, let's kick things off with cause one, escaping discomfort. Picture our stick figure friend sitting there staring at a really simple task on his desk, but suddenly feeling this tiny, creeping flicker of anxiety. When you confront a dreaded task, your brain actually experiences it as a mild threat. The exact same region of the brain, your amygdala, lights up as if you were facing literal physical danger. No way, right? Your nervous system just goes on high alert. So what does your brain do? Well, it does the exact same thing it does with any threat out in the wild. It looks for an immediate escape hatch. You check your phone, you open a new tab, or, you suddenly decide that right this very second is the absolute perfect time to color code your sock drawer. When our stick figure does this, it isn't laziness. That is a short-term emotional rescue. Your totally normal nervous system is just trying to keep you safe from a perceived threat. You feel bad about the task, you do something else, and boom, you feel better instantly. So your brain learns a really powerful lesson. Avoiding this stuff works. But the catch? That relief is entirely temporary. The task doesn't vanish, and now you have less time, which means, even more anxiety. But you aren't broken. You're just experiencing a normal human brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, avoid discomfort. Which brings us right to cause two, the motivation trap. Imagine it's 11 p.m. Our perfectly capable stick figure is utterly exhausted, sitting in the dark just waiting for the perfect moment or the right mood to magically strike. But that magical moment never actually arrives. Because here is the crucial behavioral truth of the matter. Action comes before motivation, not the other way around. This is what behavioral psychology actually shows us, folks. Motivation isn't a cause, it's a result. You do not need to feel motivated to start. You need to start to feel motivated. Think about the last time you finally tackled something you'd been avoiding for weeks. Those first 5 minutes, probably pretty miserable. But after that, it got easier. You built up a little momentum, and suddenly it wasn't so bad. That isn't magic. That's just your brain's dopamine system rewarding you for taking action, not for just planning to take action. The really uncomfortable truth is, you're never going to feel ready. Motivation isn't coming to save you. You just have to start without it. And recognizing that isn't a flaw, it's the actual skill you need to develop. Let's look at the final underlying issue here. Cause 3, an emotion problem. In psychology, there's this concept called the action gap. Basically, it's the distance between knowing what to do and actually doing it. You already know how to make a to-do list, so why do these logic-based tools constantly fail us? It's because our stick figure is treating procrastination like a logistics problem, when in reality, it's an emotion problem. You aren't avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling of inadequacy that the task triggers. We're talking boredom, fear of judgment, perfectionism, exhaustion. When you feel like you're failing at something you logically know you should be able to do, it creates this immense shame. And that shame just makes the task feel even heavier. Think about it. No to-do list in the history of the world has ever solved a deep-seated fear, right? So the shift we need to make is profound, but it's actually super simple.
Stop asking yourself, how do I organize this task? And start asking yourself, what feeling am I avoiding right now? Once you can name that feeling, whether it's the uncertainty of not knowing how to start or the fear that you won't do it perfectly, the task stops being this scary monster hiding under the bed. It becomes just a task again. So none of this means you're lazy. It literally just means you're human. So what actually works? Well, it's time for the solution, the 60-second rule. And it is all about taking the absolute smallest possible first step.
We are not saying write the whole report, not clean the entire house, not finish the giant project. No way. It's one sentence, one dish, one single minute. Our stick figure friend is making a deal with himself right now. He's committing to doing his dreaded task for just 60 seconds. That is it. Just 60. But the real trick here is that he gives himself full, guilt-free permission to stop after that 1 minute is up. You just tell yourself, I'll do this for 60 seconds. Then I can stop. And would you look at that, our stick figure is practically glowing with success. He took that tiny 60-second step and he is out there walking the path. Because here is the secret. 90% of the time, you won't actually stop after those 60 seconds. Why? Because starting is literally the only hard part. It's the only part your amygdala is fighting against. Once you cross that initial threshold, the dopamine system kicks right in and the rest is just pure momentum. You bypass the emotional threat, you bypass the need for prior motivation, and you finally close that action gap for good. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Think of the one thing you've been putting off right now. Just pick one. Commit to doing it for exactly 60 seconds today. But before you go do that, I have to ask you, what feeling are you avoiding right now? Is it fear, boredom, perfectionism? Go down into the comments right now and name that feeling. I genuinely want to hear what it is for you. And hey, if this explainer made you feel seen for something you've been deeply ashamed of, hit that subscribe button with one quick click. At the end of next week's explainer, we're giving a shout out to one subscriber, and it could totally be you. Remember, start before you're ready. That's what getting things done looks like in real life. Catch you next time.